What's your thoughts, Simon Shinerock, on the self-employed broker model where agents work out of a hub but they're self-employed? Talk to me.
Again, it's a very interesting question, and I find it particularly interesting because of Keller Williams. Okay, so Keller Williams apparently is now the largest estate agency in the world, and they've established their primary hub now, I think, in Bromley, which is where we have an office. We're actually market leaders, so I suppose I've got something to.
I think we've got 4 or 5 in London at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Keller Williams model is a direct lift from the North American life insurance model. So what they're doing is they're focusing on 2 issues. One is people development, and the other one is getting business from recommendation and referral, both of which are wonderful. Yeah. So you bring somebody in who's a top producer. This is the theory of it. Okay. You help them develop as an individual. You give them a hub to work from, and basically. They as individuals can be rewarded from what they do for what they do, and you teach them how to be part of that community, to integrate within it and get recommendations and referrals. All great stuff. Unfortunately, my conclusion is it's not going to work in the UK. Now, the reason I believe it works so well in other markets is because they charge enough commission to support it.
Okay.
So, if you look at America, 5% commission. We as a country, unfortunately, are obsessed at the moment at the other end of the fee scale. Now, if you look at the Keller Williams hub as a starting point, the theory is they're going to attract top producers in, and those top producers are going to carry on being top producers from that hub, covering a wider area. But there's a problem, because culturally, we don't have the same cultural background as the American self-employed commission-only salesman does, who's, by the way, has to have a license, has to take an exam. So they are, and this is another interesting point, in America, I think I read somewhere that 85% of the population are in fact licensed realtors. Everyone's done the realtor license almost at some point, but very few realtors make very much money. Very few in America make much money. In fact, their average earnings, I read at some point about a few years ago, was $3,000 a year.
But it's the same in Australia. This rubbish, and this exceptional.
That's right.
Do you think it comes down to, therefore, because this is my biggest, I think the model is brilliant.
Okay.
And I've gone on record to say
saw that in your face.
No, and I've gone on record to say that in 10 years' time, that 30% of agents will be self-employed. Yet, my biggest fear is that there's plenty of people who have an employed mindset.
So now you've actually done. So you haven't actually used the big word, but the big word is if. If the moon was a balloon, if people had a different mindset, if we had a different cultural background.
Now this is interesting because I've recently spoken with Adam Day, who set up Hatched and was part of Easy Property.
I know Adam.
And what he's actually said on record is if you think about it, a lot of people went over from High Street to the Purple Bricks model, which is supposedly self-employed. It isn't.
And they might get some trouble for that.
Sorry?
They might get some trouble about that.
But anyway, there you go. In terms of the way, legally it is, but you read stuff and you listen to stuff, and they're not, allegedly. But they're the ones that are more likely, he's talking to, they're more likely to actually say, sod it, I've made the move. And I think there's fear. There's a lot of fear out there about people jumping ship. And this is where it comes back to what we were talking about before, is that, the thing I love about the Keller Williams model is that the centre boss is there to help and guide the people. And I think the make or break of whether it will actually work or not is the person who runs the
okay, well, I can already give you some inside information on how that's going, and it's not great. So the reason it's not going to be great in England is because it's not high, the fees aren't high enough. We don't have the sort of people as a drawing pool for them to recruit that have got the right mentality.
I mean,
and the advantages of being on the high street and actually being visible in the community, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. In other words, the cost base of running a hub versus running a high street office with 3 or 4 people in it, there's no advantage to the hub. And in fact, there are many disadvantages to it. The kind of person you need doesn't really exist. There's not many of them in England. There's a few, but there's not many.
Are we talking about the centre bosses, or are we talking about the associates that go out there and get the business?
The associates. The bosses are, it's a dual problem really, because I come from an era where I was taught how to recruit and train self-employed life insurance salespeople. Estate agencies never been like that in the UK. They're trying to impose a model like that. So I could go in and I could do it, but I'm not. There aren't estate agents with my background.
Can I share with you where I think if it's going to win, it will win?
Okay.
I think the centre boss or even the national boss needs to become an external leader. I think where a lot of people are going to go wrong, and not yourself, but there's going to be plenty of agents out there that run 5-6 branch operations who thinks this is a way to get rid of all their wage costs.
They'll fail.
They will fail because the Keller Williams model, other models are available, is that you're not the boss, you work for the associates and you guide and support them.
Yeah. Century 21, Remax, they've all tried to introduce this into the UK and they've all failed miserably.
That's because the leaders have not been there, because even though the people go over from employed to self-employed, they're still going to have a part-employed mentality, and you need to have a leader.
So I'm trying to listen really carefully to this, and I am going to agree with you. And what I'm saying is those leaders do not exist in the UK. We have no cultural base on which to build a business model like that. The nearest we get to it is someone like me who I had 72 self-employed life insurance salespeople at one point. But I understand how that works, but estate agents don't.
To be a centre boss, do you necessarily have to be an ex-estate agent?
Yes. And the reason I say that is because, as I said to you in another interview, when I first started in estate agency 30 years ago, I was brilliant at getting business, but I didn't really know too much about selling properties. And what I found was, in a bad market, I didn't know what to do. So you do need to have all of the skills. And I'm saying to you that very few people have all of those skills. And even if I went into it, let's just say I decided to be a Keller Williams individual, centre boss, and I've got really good recruitment skills, I've got great training skills, I understand selling.
You're the coach, you're the leader.
I'm going to do everything, everyone's great. But I still believe that because of the commission base is very low, and because of the competition that I'm going to get from very strong local market leaders, it wouldn't be worth my while doing it, so I wouldn't do it.
Well, we're going to have to mostly agree on that one, because I think it is possible if you get the right people, and I think it comes down to the people.
But again, you use the massive word, if.
If.
You'll not get the right people, Chris, and I can guarantee it. In fact, I'll make a bet with you. Anything you like, those people will not emerge, and the Keller Williams model will fail in the UK. It might just stumble on like Century 21 and Remax have, but it won't succeed. Not in the way they hope to.
Well, as the blind man says, we shall see.
Thanks, Chris.